Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in for another track guide. First off, I'd like to say I apologize for the little bit of a break on the channel. Had some things going on in my life outside of the YouTube channel and had to take some time to take care of those, get everything worked out, and now I feel like we're back uh, to keep on making guides. So I appreciate your patience and I'm ready to jump back into this thing. So we're going to start off by looking at the Xfinity B Class Fixed Series at Kansas Speedway. And I want to begin this tutorial by taking a look at the track map first. So the reason why is at first glance, it looks like a simple enough track. It looks like any other mile and a half that you might see. But there is a couple characteristics that you should know of. The first one being, as you go down here into turn 1 into turn 2, it might seem hard to notice, but the track actually tightens up a little bit in this area. So if you're running the high side, you don't really notice it that bad. But if you're running the low side, you might notice it. And that's something that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But if you compare 1 and 2 to 3 and 4, you can see 3 and 4 is more of a constant type corner as far as the angle goes, whereas right in here, uh, right around in this area, it tightens up. And if you run the low side, you can really feel that. So be aware of that. And then your corner entries, like most mile and a halves, corner into turn 1, you can carry some speed. And then the exit of turn 2 is going to get a little bit cramped because it's a D-shaped style track. And then turn 3, your entry is going to be a little bit more cramped, and then you can kind of really carry speed off turn 4. So, with that said, let's hop into the lap here. Like that transition there, that fancy transition. Uh, um, so qualifying here is very high side dominant. I learned this the hard way. I could not figure out how people were getting 3/10 on me. I was able to run like a 33.3 or I mean 31.3 or a 31.4 for my lap times, and I was like, I don't know how people are getting any quicker. And they're doing it by running on the top side. You keep so much more momentum on the high side that it's just not worth it to run low in these cars, especially because these are not high downforce cars. So um, typically, the more downforce you have, the more you want to run the quote unquote ideal racing line, right? The less downforce you have, the more creative you can kind of be. And this is an example of that. So because these cars are lower downforce, you have to shave off so much speed to run low that it's actually better to take the long way around the track. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and watch this qualifying lap and then we'll chat about it afterwards. And there we have our lap of a 31.101. I was really happy with that actually. I felt like that was a pretty decent lap. So let's go ahead and back up here and we'll talk about some of the qualities of the lap here. So as you can see, obviously we're staying low until we have to come back up. And also side note, your qualifying line and your race line are going to be really similar, which is a lot of the time that's the case with these fixed setup cars, but that's okay. There are some things you can do that we'll talk about to gain an advantage during the race. So we're entering, staying pretty high, a little bit of blip of the throttle, and then when we can balance the car how I want it, then we're getting back to full throttle. And I do hold the car up here until I come out of the corner. I like to cut down a little bit. I'm not the most comfortable person running right up next to the wall. So I like to give myself a little bit of breathing room throughout the corner and on the exit. So that's why typically I'll cut down a little bit just to give myself some more corner exit room if I've got the balance of the car slightly messed up or something like that. And then you'll stay high all the way here. And I'm sure that there's more time to be gained by running a little bit higher up. But like I said, you want to run where you're comfortable for the most part. That way you can be consistent. This is going to be one of those tracks where consistency, again, is going to be really key. So here you can see again, we're just below this seam, but we're making sure and staying above this bit of the groove here. And as you could tell, we got to the throttle a little bit harder and more aggressive in this corner because we knew that the corner would widen up a little bit on the way out, so we could afford for the car to ride just a tiny bit higher. And then drive it back down and cross the line, and that's pretty much your lap. And if you're not comfortable running the wall, I got a little piece of advice, and that is this. Make sure, let's go ahead and get in the corner here. Make sure that you are always looking pretty far ahead of you. It's going to be harder with cars right in your face, obviously, but try to look ahead. If your vision is right here and you're making sure that if your eyes are always doing this, kind of heading back towards the wall, chances are you're going to drive up a little bit too high and into the wall. So just look ahead of you, look where you want the car to go. Like at this point, I'm looking here, I'm focusing on these lines. This is where I'm trying to aim for to stay above. And that's going to make you feel like you have more reaction time as you go through the corner, which is really important when you're trying to hold the car on the wall like that because it's not easy to do. It's there's a fine line between holding the car on the wall and then knocking the wall down. So that's that. So a couple more things about this track here. I'm just going to let this play in the background and we'll give it a talk here. So, like we said, into turn 1 and 2 here, it's a little bit different. So if you're trying to make a pass on somebody or somebody's trying to make a pass on you, um, what you need to do is you want to make this corner a little bit later of an apex because like we said, it kind of tightens up as you get into the middle of turn 1. So you don't really want to turn down until you're through that sector of the track. Then the car won't tighten up so bad mid-corner. So try to keep that in mind. People are going to be making slide jobs here because that's kind of how this week is going to go. And so you're going to be trying to run this high line and someone's going to come in here on corner entry and they're going to dive it down low and they're going to try to slide up in front of you. What that's going to do is kill their momentum and your momentum. So just got to watch out for that. If someone's being really aggressive, just kind of let them have it. Chances are they're going to wear their stuff out pretty soon anyway. Um, what you want to do here is make people pass you on the low side, if at all possible. Don't wreck yourself or somebody else to try to fight your way up into that high groove. But you want to try to make people pass you on the low side. They're going to wear their tires out. They're going to build up more heat trying to get by you on the bottom. And then even if they do complete the pass, they might be too hot. Their tire might be too hot, so they might struggle in 5 laps or something, and you can run them back down. So be patient with that kind of thing. You don't want to run the low side too much because that's a good way just to burn up the right front, and then the car gets super tight over a long run. And since we've only got one extra set of tires, you do want to take care of them. And you can do that a little bit easier on the high side of the track. So, let's see here. Just another thing to note is that the car is going to get looser as the run goes on for the most part on corner entry. And that obviously that's a lot better than being tight. So you will have to fight with the throttle a little bit and with the steering wheel kind of doing some back and forth to get the car settled to where you want it. But once you kind of get used to that, it's not too bad. And another thing, if you're kind of everybody's in a train up front, and let's say there's a couple car lengths between you and the car in front of you, one of the things you can do is just run maybe half a lane lower. That way, you're cutting a little bit of the distance out of the track because you're not running that long way around at the very top, but you're not giving up a lot of momentum either. So that's a good way that you can chip down at somebody's gap and you won't burn your stuff out trying to catch them. So that's a trick that I like to use is run just a half a lane or a lane lower, maybe every corner or every other corner, um, and just chip away at that lead. This is not a track where you want to get moves done all in one lap a lot of the time. If you do feel like there's a gap, so let's say there's a car that you're trying to get in front of, and then they have two car links to the car in front of them. That's an opportunity where you can go for a slide job and try to get a move done because maybe you can slide up into that gap in between those cars. But you don't want to be too aggressive on those slide jobs if there's not really a gap for you to slide into. You don't want to do a slide job if you're going to come up right next to the car in front of the one you just attempted to pass because you're just going to lose your momentum and get stuck right back on the bottom lane. So, as you could tell, we're not using any brakes. We're not using any brake bias type switching around, and I use the default steering ratio. So, it's a little bit twitchier probably than some of you will like it, but just kind of play around with it and see what you think. And yep, good luck for this week. Again, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in for these videos. I'm pretty blown away. We've reached 30 subscribers, so that's really awesome. And I appreciate each and every one of you for watching the videos, for commenting. It's been pretty cool over the last couple of weeks to see some of you say that the Darlington video helped you quite a bit. And I'm really happy to hear that. So if you've got any tips for me or for anybody else, feel free to leave them in the comments. And that way we can get a discussion going about all of us becoming better drivers. So I hope you learned some more tricks for the track. I hope this helps you out. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.